There are adults you meet who feel strangely distant. Not rude. Not cold. Just unreachable. As if you're talking to someone who's in the room, but not really in the room. Someone who smiles softly, listens politely, blends seamlessly, but never lets you see what's behind their eyes. These are ghost adults. People who didn't die, but disappeared anyway. Not all at once. Not dramatically. They faded in microscopic ways. Year by year, memory by memory. Until one day they realized they were living inside a body that didn't feel like theirs. Ghost adults aren't born. They're shaped. Imagine a child who grows up understanding, not in words, but in instinct, that being noticed is dangerous. Maybe their crying was mocked. Maybe their joy was ignored. Maybe their needs were too much, or their mistakes were unforgivable. So the child makes a decision. A decision so quiet even they don't hear it. If my existence creates problems, I should take up less space. And so they do. They shrink. They swallow emotions whole. They fold themselves into smaller versions. Versions that don't upset anyone. Versions that don't need anything. Versions that don't burden anyone. Years pass, and that shrinking becomes their personality. By the time they're adults, they've perfected the art of disappearing. They walk softly, as if every floor creaks too loudly. They enter rooms like they're apologizing for disturbing the air. They love without expecting to be loved back. They exist with the guilt of someone occupying a seat they believe they don't deserve. They often think they're introverts, or shy, or just private. But really, they were trained to erase themselves. Ghost adults don't speak unless spoken to. They don't ask for help. They don't express hurt. They don't demand fairness. They don't show anger, even when they're breaking. To others, they seem calm, collected, unbothered. But inside, they're empty in a way that feels like a slow leak in the soul. They've spent so long being unseen that they don't know how to step into visibility without fear. Because being visible meant being judged. Being visible meant being corrected. Being visible meant being dismissed. Being visible meant being told, "Not like that. Not you. Not now." So they learned to drift on the edges of their own life. Ghost-like. Untouchable. Forgettable. People don't notice ghost adults leaving rooms because they never fully entered them. You'll see them in friendships where they are always the listener and never the one asked about their day. You'll see them in relationships where they're gentle, giving, accommodating. So much so that partners forget they have needs at all. You'll see them at work, doing their job quietly, efficiently, while louder voices get the recognition they quietly hoped for, but never expected. They are ghosts in meetings, ghosts in group photos, ghosts at family gatherings. Always there, but never fully seen. But here's the part most people miss. Ghost adults are not empty. They are full. Full of things they've never expressed. They carry decades of muted feelings, like unopened letters inside their chest. Every disappointment they didn't voice. Every boundary they couldn't set. Every time they wanted to scream but chose silence instead. They carry entire storms. In rooms no one else will ever enter. Sometimes, late at night, they catch glimpses of who they could have been. If someone had just said, "It's okay to speak. It's okay to feel. It's okay to exist." They see flashes. A version of themselves that talks freely, laughs loudly, dreams boldly, and stands in the center instead of the shadows. But the more they try to reach for that version, the further it slips away. Because ghost adults aren't just afraid of being seen. They're afraid of themselves. Afraid of the person under all the silence. Afraid of the anger they never expressed. Afraid of the sadness they never processed. Afraid of how much they've missed, lost, sacrificed, and forgotten. They avoid deep intimacy. Not because they don't crave it, but because deep intimacy means revealing the parts of themselves they've spent a lifetime hiding. They fear being known. And they fear, even more deeply, that once known, they'll be rejected. But the biggest tragedy of the ghost adult isn't the silence. It's the loneliness. Not the loneliness of being alone, but the loneliness of never being met. Never being understood deeply enough to feel human again. And yet, even in their ghosthood, there are tiny moments where the human inside them slips through. When a song reminds them of a childhood they can barely remember. When someone asks a real question and waits for the answer. When they talk about something they love, and their voice changes. Just a little. In those moments, the ghost flickers. Because beneath the quiet exterior lives a person who wants to be seen so badly. It hurts. A person who wants someone to stay long enough, gently enough, patiently enough, for them to come back into their body. Ghost adults don't need saving. They need safety. A safety they've never experienced. Not even with themselves. And healing for them doesn't look like loud breakthroughs or dramatic transformations. It looks like answering a message without overthinking, saying I'm tired instead of I'm fine, letting one tear fall instead of blinking it back, letting someone see one unpolished truth, taking up 1 inch more space than yesterday. Healing looks like haunting their own life less and inhabiting it more. Slowly, very slowly, they begin to unlearn invisibility. They begin to step into the light. Not all at once, but flicker by flicker. They realize that being seen is not the same as being judged. That taking up space is not the same as causing harm. That their needs are not inconveniences. They are proof they're alive. The ghost adult learns, often painfully, that disappearing wasn't safety. It was survival. And survival is not the same as living. And maybe one day, they will look in the mirror and meet themselves without flinching. They will see a face that deserved affection, a voice that deserved to be heard, a presence that deserved to take up space in every room they entered. And when that day comes, the ghost finally becomes human again. Not because someone saved them, but because they finally chose to return to themselves.